Captain's log supplemental.
Raising shields.
Primary core access enabled. Systems online.
Red alert, shields up.
Their bottom shield is draining, sir. Their forward shield is draining. Captain, their forward shield has failed.
Simulated friendly ship has been destroyed.
Alert, shields up.
Simulated enemy ship has been destroyed. That's it. We got him.
Red alert, shields up. The ship has been destroyed. Ending simulation. Red alert, shields up.
right shield.
Simulated enemy ship has been destroyed. That's it. We got him.
Red alert, shields up.
Tractor beam has been disabled, Captain. Hull integrity at 75%.
The outer shield has failed, Captain.
Shields are at 50%.
Simulated enemy ship has been destroyed. That's it. We got him.